Sachdeva ji is there. I would request him to speak a little.
Yes, yes, Sachdeva
Deva ji.
please, please.
Yes, sir. Actually, I have been listening to the lecture more attentively and I was benefiting from this. It was an intellectual deliberation which was very enlightening and revealing also. And it has broken many of my myths also. And we can see that, for example, Dr. Tiwari said, Bina khadak, bina dhal, de diya hame azadi. I never thought that way, that this could be the perspective also, that what are we serving, what picture are we creating before our generation. So this is a very pertinent point besides many others. But sir, I would like to ask you a question that how can we correlate this, the use of legendary and mythology and also the historical perspective in connection with the narratives? And is there any verifiable
Very true,
method
sir.
that
Very true.
very how these narratives can be literary and critically tested and verified on certain touchstone methods so that what is being delivered has to be authentic before the readers or the audience or the generations as such. This just my simple query, sir. Thank you.
So, Professor Sachdeva, you have made your point clear. I don't know exactly what you want to know. You want to ask that how these narratives can change the perspective, our perspective, regarding regarding culture, regarding society. If it is the question, this is what I have been emphasizing throughout my lecture. I left certain portions because that would have irritated some of the participants. My thesis is very clear, and the thesis which I wanted to raise in my lecture was that a very concerted effort was made throughout the history, right from the invasion of Alexander. And not that it happened here in India, it happened anywhere when the country was attacked. Like when Alexander the Great came to India, he came very hurriedly and he went back in the same way. That Indian polity, Indian thought, everything Indian that was there, that learned a lot from that culture, and it was deeply influenced also. Whether and the influences of that culture you can witness on your iconography, your what you call your art, your architecture, everywhere you can see there. And after that, because that did not last for a long time, the invaders did not stay there. When the other invaders came to India, they wanted a space for themselves because most of them they came here to spread their ideology. For example, there were two reasons, in fact, to spread their religion and to plunder this country. And they succeeded in doing both. How did they do it? This is the question. Did it happen with any magic band? No, they had a clear-cut strategy for that. They changed your language and they challenged your narratives. They distorted their narratives. And a situation came when the natives also, they said that, yes, the invader is right. So that colonization started from there only, no? Your mind started accepting those things that way from that point of view. And the colonization is completed when the natives accept that they are inferior. कहाँ चला गया भाई देखो तो
Sir, we can hear you, sir.
If you can hear, then that's okay. Because my, that visual is not there, but that laptop is in front of me. So they did it with a strategy by introducing new ideas. And this is how the whole thing, that process completed, because the majority of the natives, the majority of Indians, they accepted that they were inferior. It was so deep rooted. It was so deep rooted that we found a kind of ploy in nonviolence. And to my utter wonder, even after independence, the same thing continued, the same narratives continued. The narratives that we had in the British period or in the Middle Ages, the same thing continued. My question is that how could they continue the same narrative? They could continue the same narrative with one single thing, and what was that? That was the falsification of the narratives, destruction of the mutilation of the narratives. So narratives were already mutilated. They continued with that. But for the last 10 to 15 years, a new change is visible here. And people are trying to revisit the whole thing. They are coming out of their hibernation. They are reassessing that amnesia, what happened during these periods. So this is visible not in our political thought, it is visible in our all walks of life. It is visible in literature, in literary criticism. It is visible in our poetry, and this all has been done with a purpose, with a design. No, as I gave you the example that Professor Sachideva, if you were here, you remember that I gave you the design and I challenge it. You can argue with me on this point. That if you talk about the Western poets and writers and novelists, and if you read their life history, you find they have faith in at least two things. That is their ancient literature which they had, and their faith, that is the Bible. No poet no British poet can be completely understood by a man who does not have any access to the Bible. Because their literature has been produced in such a way. They recognized only that kind of thing. But in India, we have a different trend. Even the great scholars, they don't know about the well-known treatises of Sanskrit literature. So that is why sometimes I wonder how did it happen and why did it happen. And once we have realized that it was wrong, it is time to correct all that. Now, a related question could be there that India is a country of a million identities. There are so many people, they identify themselves with their cultural roots and they have their own books, their values and all that. Well, it should be there. So you identify with your value system, with your roots and all that. Why do you identify with something which is foreign? It's something which you don't understand at all. It's something which has no relevance to your daily life. That is, my question. And that is how I perceive the things and I look at the things. Thank you.